If you feel like you got into your business to create more freedom to go have amazing travel experiences with the people you love most, but lately it's felt like building the business has been more of a cage than it has been the vehicle for freedom that you thought it should be. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the exact steps that I've used to reduce my working hours, especially when I'm taking epic trips like this, while I've created a business that runs without me so that I can enjoy these experiences. Now there's different stages of being able to do this, which I'm gonna break down, and there's one key philosophy that once you understand it, it really allows you to step away to build the business to run without you so you can go enjoy your life, put your life first, and still have a business that actually grows faster without you. Now, when I first heard this idea, this was so counterintuitive, and I had heard it from a lot of other entrepreneurs. In fact, there's one guy named Dan Sullivan. He's famous for running the program called Strategic Coach, and he's also co-authored a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And one of the key things that he's talked about a lot is that busy entrepreneurs, overbooked entrepreneurs are not successful entrepreneurs. And so he talks about this idea that if you use time as a forcing function to reduce your hours, you can actually only focus on few but highly important things that take a lot more deep work and a lot more strategic vision from you as the founder. So my name's Eli Facenda, aka Eli the Travel Guy. I've traveled to over 50 countries in the last several years, saving over $500,000 on luxury travel experiences by maximizing my credit card points. And as I was traveling, I was having tons of experiences. I was going all over the world. I was going to places like Dubai. I was going to Italy multiple times a year. I was going to Japan, Costa Rica, Mexico, South America, you name it. I was pretty much all over the map. But what I realized after years of doing that and still feeling kind of burnt out, like having amazing experiences, but feeling tired and still feeling like the business was more of a grind than I wanted it to be, I realized I was missing some key understandings of how to actually structure my business, and that's what I'm gonna show you today. Now, before I break down these steps that you can use in your business to actually go travel the world, have these peak experiences, and just really use your time on your terms, there's one common thing that I've seen stop so many entrepreneurs, and it's that there's a belief that says, yes, I want to take the time off, but you're afraid that if you do, everything's gonna break. You're gonna lose momentum. Everything you've been working for is gonna slow down, or the team's gonna fall apart and drop the ball. Where so many fires are gonna start that when you get back, it's just gonna be too many headaches, so you might as well just not even go, or just work the whole time anyways. And what I wanna tell you is there's a completely different way of structuring things that will eradicate that entirely, and it is so much better. It's better for you, but honestly, it's also better for the people you love. If you have a wife or a husband or kids or people in your life that wanna have your actual presence and have your time, the honest truth is that so many of us as entrepreneurs, we get so in the grind, so in the business, we get locked in, we get monofocused, and we're just not even as present. And there's a big difference between being there with people and being there with people. One of them is where your body is showing up and maybe you're having conversations, and the other is where you're really soaking up the moment. You're in the experience, you're open, you're engaged, you're curious, you're having full meaningful conversations that actually make you feel deeply connected and make the people that you're with feel like they have their husband back or their dad back or their wife back or their mom back or whoever you are to them. So this isn't just for you. This is also important for the people you love. So the first thing I want to show you, which I'm sure you've never heard anywhere else before, is the 4 levels to taking vacations as a CEO. Now, why are we going to start with vacations if you want to think about working less and making more? Well, because vacations are the ultimate test point. You don't want to just work less to have nothing on your calendar to do nothing. That's not the goal. The goal of freedom isn't to just have infinite white space to do nothing with. It's so that you can actually fill your life with meaningful experiences. You want to have what I call experiential wealth. You want to have a rich life and experiences, right? So let's start with that first point, the 4 ways that you can relate to vacations as an entrepreneur. So level number 1 to this is you just don't take them, right? This is the entrepreneur who's either starting out or is just stuck in some story that if you take time off, everything will implode. And I've been there, but usually in most cases, unless you're really just starting out and you don't have a team and you don't have any product market fit, and you don't have any momentum, maybe there's a season where you do just need to lock in and just build the foundations and at least get some momentum. But even then, the majority of the people I've talked to stay stuck there way longer than they need to. They aren't giving themselves permission to actually go enjoy their life. Why? Because they have a story that if they step away, they think they're so important that everything's gonna stop and break. And again, in some cases it does. We're gonna get to that in step 2. But in a lot of cases, you'll come back and find out maybe you weren't as important as you thought. And that will bring us to step 2. Now, step 2 is a huge step up from step 1 because in this step, you're actually taking the trips. Now, this is where I lived for years. Now, this is the stage where you as an entrepreneur are traveling to amazing places like this, but instead of fully enjoying them, you're just working there. So you basically just take and work with you to a more beautiful place. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And I spent years in this place and it was really fun and it was really invigorating and I thought it was awesome for a while. The whole laptop lifestyle, work from anywhere kind of thing. there's truth in that. But after a while, you realize there's a huge difference between working from a beautiful beach and just being at the beach and enjoying it, right? This is a major difference. And if you haven't hit the point of burnout in your business before, you haven't hit that level yet where you're just like tired and exhausted and you feel like the juice, the passion that you started the business with has faded, it's probably because you don't have enough of those actual resets and you're going to amazing places, but you're not getting the time off. Now, this one hit me really hard because when I was in Argentina 2 summers ago, I was on a month-long trip with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife. And we were taking this trip from Colombia to Argentina to then Brazil. And on the back end of the Argentina portion of the trip, I had told myself, after this, I'm taking 10 days off. This was the first time I'd done this, honestly, I think ever, because I had kind of taken vacations. I was always kind of working. I was like, I'm going full on vacation mode. I'm going to go chill. I'm going to go relax. I'm going to see how the business does. I don't even care if things fail. I was so burnt out at the time. I was like, I know I need this. And a couple of days before I went to go take the trip, I found myself in the Park Hyatt Buenos Aires, getting ready to offload a bunch of projects, to delegate, to try and do what I could to prepare myself. And I was just getting consistent messages from the team, an upset team member, someone who wanted to quit. We had a sales member who was just ramping up, but he wasn't really ready yet, and I thought he was supposed to be. So now all the sales calls that was supposed to produce the revenue that was going to sustain us, we weren't really there yet. We had a client that wanted a refund and one that was really upset. That was a personal relationship that I felt obligated to go fix. So here I am telling myself I'm about to go take 10 weeks off and all of these things start coming up. And it's almost like life tests us in this moment. It's like, are you seriously going to do this, or are you going to kind of go back into your old pattern? And I was really close to doing that. And I remember actually there was a moment where I just like collapsed on the floor and I was like, can I get a break? Like, this is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And, you know, I've traveled the world, so I've been to a lot of places in Africa, in the Caribbean islands, in Southeast Asia, where you see people that are in objectively way worse situations than probably you or I are. But even in those moments, you know, that idea of using other people's relative experience to mine wasn't helping. I was still having my pity party, feeling stressed out, burnt out, just exhausted. I felt like I'd built this giant monster in cage that was sitting on top of me, because instead of giving me this life that was supposed to be built on freedom and enjoyment and going, having fun, and yes, making a great impact and building a great team, here I was caged up, feeling like everything was going to implode on me. But I knew, okay, I'm in a pretty low state right now. I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. So maybe it's not the best time to listen to that voice in my head, and let me stick to the plan. So I ended up deciding to take the 10 days off. And what happened on that trip was completely transformative. I came back and I had all this new energy. I had new ideas. I was in the work while traveling mode. And it's just, if you want a great life that feels alive and you actually get to have your energy while you're building the business, it is not the most sustainable way to do it. So that brings me to step 3. Now, this is a massive step. And if you could make the change from step 2 to step 3, your life is going to drastically change. So step 3 is what I call CEO vacation mode. So this is where you still are thinking of yourself as the operator of the business and you're still tethered, but you've got enough systems in place, enough team in place, and enough trust in the overall engineering of what you've built to step away mostly, but stay tethered. So you're checking email daily, maybe you're checking your scorecards, you're clearing Slack messages, you know, you're unblocking little things, maybe 15, 30 minutes, an hour in the morning, and maybe a little bit in the afternoon. So you're still kind of online, but you're not like taking a ton of calls. You're not stacking your calendar with events and activities. You're really giving yourself that ability to reset, but you're still really connected to the business, and it's not like you're fully disconnecting. Now, this is a huge step, because that means if you're in a place like Lake Tahoe, you can go out and ride jet skis like we are tomorrow morning, or you could go take the gondola up to the top of the mountain and go hike, or you could just go read a book by the water and enjoy, or go for, you know, long strolls without anything to do and give yourself that nice, rejuvenating, relaxing space. So while this is a huge level up from step 2, it is still not the final step. And that brings me to step 4, which is the 0 state. This is where you're actually completely offline. You're completely disconnected. You tell your team, do not contact me unless the entire world is burning down. Don't reach out to me, right? You're offline for 3, 5, 7, 10 days, 2 weeks, maybe even a month. Ideally, you continue to test the length of these as you go. Now, the benefit of this is profound. This is the game changer, not only for your own personal mental health, your relationships, but also for the health of the business. And there is such a major difference from going from being tethered to the business a little bit to being completely offline. So as I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, most of them never make it to step 4, let alone even know that it exists. So this is the ultimate North Star. And what you want to do is start to schedule your year and schedule your life where you have a couple times where you're going to go do what we call a vacation test. In fact, I have a good friend who actually wrote a book called The Vacation Test, my buddy Austin Netzley. And this is the whole philosophy. This is how you test the business's health to run without you. And ideally, you create more of these trips every year, and then you create them for longer terms. So the first mode that you're probably making the leap on if you're watching this is most likely going from step 2 to step 3. And then ideally, throw in some tests where you go from step 3 to step 4 and you completely shut off. And what this looks like at its finest is no calls on the calendar, no Slack messages, no email, no WhatsApp, no anything, no messages at all. You completely disconnect. Now, what this does though, if you stay in the identity of a business operator, it might threaten you a little bit, because what will happen in that stage is you might feel that need for control kicking in, and that's going to pull you back into the business. And we don't want to have that. So what we need is a better system so that things are architected to work without you while you're away. So before I go to the next point, I want you to just think for a second and be honest with yourself. On the last vacation that you took, or the last trip, were you working the whole time? Or were you tethered to the business a little bit? Or were you actually able to touch that zero state where you completely shut off? Be honest with yourself. Because if you're working on Slack from the pool while the kids are playing around, or you're on the way to dinner with your wife in a new city and you're kind of just responding to emails here and there, you haven't reached the zero state, and there's more to the game. And this will be the game changer in terms of your fulfillment and your enjoyment. It's also what's going to make your trips feel more enjoyable. Mentally, if you're not prepared, it can be kind of hard because you're in this habit and pattern of kind of being addicted to work. And when you go to take that time off, it's almost honestly like a little bit of a drug. Like your neurochemistry is so linked to work, and your identity is linked to work, and your dopamine is linked to work, and your significance and your recognition and your value is linked to work. So just expect that some of that stuff can come up, because it sounds silly at first, but when you go to actually run these tests, you'll find that sometimes it's harder than it seems. So if you're sitting there and you're in stage 2 or 3 and you're wondering, how do I get to stage 4? How do I move up the ladder? Well, I want to introduce the most important philosophy and strategy that will actually allow you to unplug on these trips. And once you dial this in, it is a complete game changer to how your business runs without you. So point 2, which is a game changer, is to use your time off and your vacations as a forcing function for growth. So what I'm going to explain to you is something called Parkinson's Law. Now, Parkinson's Law basically states that work will expand to fit the time that you allow it to fit. Have you ever realized that if you let your business just eat all the time you have, it will? There's always more to do. There's always another milestone, another hire, another campaign to launch, another piece of social media to post, another prospect to talk to. That game never ends. So what you have to do is set your boundaries and constraints first. This is why I like to preach this idea of plan your vacations first, because if you don't plan for yourself first, no one's going to do it, and the business is going to eat all of your time. So what you want to do though is not just stop there, because most business owners just think of their vacations as a reward for the success of hard work. And while that is a great way to incentivize yourself and motivate yourself, and I actually do align with that too, there's a deeper way of actually harnessing the power of vacations to fuel the growth. And so what this is going to look like is 2 things. First, before the trip. Before you go on the trip, you're going to get things in order. You're going to understand what are the targets, what are the goals, and you're going to use your vacations as not just milestones for growth to push sprints, but milestones to realize what needs to be set up and systemized so that the business can run better without me when I am away. So there's many processes to do this. One of them is going to be a very simple time audit where you look at what are the most important things of the business that you're currently doing, and who and how can you delegate these to other people? How can you systemize them, or how can you automate them? Or better yet, if they're actually not essential, vacations will prove that maybe some things can just get entirely cut from the business overall. So what's beautiful about this is when you do the time audit and then you realize, oh my God, my assistant could handle that. My client success manager could have handled that. My head of sales could have handled that. My creative director could handle that. My COO could handle that. My business partner could handle that. When you come back, you realize, oh, there's actually less things that I need to be doing inside of the business, which frees up your bandwidth and capacity to focus on higher level things. Now, as a business owner and as the visionary and the steward of the business, you need to be focused on the highest leverage things only. And when you use the vacations as a forcing function for this, you're going to have to delegate things, because if certain things have to happen while you're away, but you can't do them, well, someone else is going to do them. And then all of a sudden, that's now a new capability that they've unlocked that you no longer have to do. Now, this is the real unlock, because what's going to happen for most entrepreneurs is they're going to keep moving the goalposts. They're going to say, I'll take the trip when I hit the next milestone, when I sell the business, or when I do this, then I'll finally get there. But that day just doesn't come. And if you're fortunate enough to make it, man, you've missed on so many memories. And I actually lost 2 friends in their early 50s in last year. While they did really have some amazing experiences, both of them also really did put off a lot of their dreams, because I knew them personally and they were telling me about the things that they wanted to do in their life. And I don't want to disparage them, because they were great men and they led great families. But man, I wish that they had gone back and maybe prioritize some of those experiences a little bit earlier, because now that they're gone, they don't get that time back. And so they don't get to relive those memories with their family. So I don't want to get caught in that trap, and I don't want you to get caught in that trap either. Now, here's the real kicker about this. A lot of business owners tell me they want to just work harder and be on a sprint mode to eventually sell their business. And then I ask them and say, what are you doing in the business? And they tell me all the things like, yeah, I'm doing this and this and this, because we're in hustle mode, we're in grind mode, and eventually I'll scale it and get myself out of it. And that's exactly what I thought too for a long time. And I really wanted to sell the business because I was getting so stressed out. Even though I really loved it, it was this big conflict. Like, I love the thing, but man, this is exhausting. I'd love to sell it and just have the big payday and be able to just go to the beach and hang out. But here's the issue. If you're in the business and you are that glue man and you are the band-aid for everything, the crutch for everything, is the business actually bulletproof enough to sell? If you've ever looked at selling your business and you've done the evaluations, right? Anybody who's buying a company is going to look at one of the most important things as key man risk, right? The founder risk. Are you involved in everything? Are you the face of everything? Are you involved in all the systems, all the client delivery, all of that? If you are, it's going to be pretty hard to sell a business because you're too involved. So these vacations actually are also micro tests to see, hey, how sellable is this business? Now, I live by the philosophy that I learned from Keith Cunningham. He's an amazing entrepreneur. He wrote a book called The Road Less Stupid. And what Keith says is build your business like you could sell it tomorrow or run it forever. I think this is the best philosophy that we should all operate from, because that means you've designed it in a way where you love what you're doing, you love what you're creating in the world, but you also love your role in it. And it's built in a way where if you needed to, you could exit it. So that's the path that I'm on. That's what I'm working towards, is having that optionality, because that means you can take the trips or you can work. You have choice, you have more power, and you have more ability to actually lead the business in a way that lights you up. So this point alone of using your trips as a forcing function, if you really believe in it and you really trust it and you really embody it and you actually test it and you try it once or twice, this alone is going to completely change the game. But it doesn't stop there. It gets even better, because point number 3 will give you the permission to not just see your trips as a forcing function, but actually to see them as one of the most essential things for parabolic growth in your company. Now, this point was really counterintuitive for me because I didn't really ever reflect and think on a key idea, which is, where do my best ideas and decisions come from? But once you do actually think about that, it becomes obvious why your vacations are so important. So point number 3 is that your best ideas come in the white space. They come in the openness. They come in the relaxation. They come in the quiet mind. Where do you get your best ideas now? I'm going to guess, if you're like most people, you're going to say in the shower, driving somewhere randomly, just listen to music, or maybe on the toilet, right? Or on vacation. A lot of people realize this. And why is that? Well, when our minds get busy, right? And then you're just, you're chomping away on problems and you're just chewing on these problems. Well, you're using such analytical parts of your mind that you just don't have this openness and this perspective and really that mode of reflectivity that allows new, fresh ideas to come. And so even if you're in your office and you kind of create space, it's still a lot harder because your brain is so tied to the environment, right? There's so many patterns and emotional cues and mental cues that keep you in certain patterns and certain loops. But when you change your environment entirely, you come somewhere like this, you slow down, you create a lot more space in the day, you read, your brain gets into a different state. And there are brain waves that you could get into to research this. If you really are interested in neurology, that's not my wheelhouse, but it is interesting to study this stuff because ultimately, when you get into these, what we call theta states or more deep, relaxed states, that's where that deeper whisper comes from. That's where that idea, the one idea you've been looking for, completely unlocks and you just see the business in a new way. And this just happened to me yesterday. I was out there sitting on the grass, just kind of taking in the view, reflecting, and I was not really thinking about work or anything. And I finally given myself a few days off because usually if you're on a trip, it takes at least 3-4 days for you to really kind of sink in and actually just like hit that mode where like, I'm here. Right? And get into that full parasympathetic state where you're just actually relaxed. So one of the ideas that came through was around the brand. And I've been thinking about where I want to take the brand and the messaging and the positioning. There's kind of been this internal conflict that I've had around what do we want to do with these two different parts? And it just locked into place right there. In one moment, I had solved a problem that I had been thinking about analytically for 6 months. No amount of ChatGPT or talking to AI or business coaching was helping me solve that. I needed white space. I needed to hear myself more. So you need to realize that as you're growing, especially if you're at 7 or 8 figures or maybe more, your best leverage in the business is not your effort or your work, right? It's probably not even your ability to close deals or your ability to post content. It's going to be in your vision, in the clarity of that vision, your ability to communicate it to people, your alignment to it, how convicted you are, and your decisions, right? So when you have the space to create more creativity in the vision, which basically just means better ways to solve the problem that you're facing. I don't mean creative like you're creating a piece of art. I mean, you could say that your business is art, but what I really mean is you just come up with more innovative ways, better ways to solve the problem. And you need space to do that. And if you think about the big decisions in the business, like the one next hire, what's the one move that will 10x everything else? It's usually a key personnel. Maybe it's a new product that you're gonna launch. Having the space to actually reflect on that will allow you to come out of the trip with a new sense of vision. You can lead the team better, but you're also gonna make better decisions overall. And my guess is, as I say this, there's probably that version of you that you know, the one who's more relaxed, who's more calm, who's probably nicer to the people in their life, the one who just is naturally more reflective, naturally more creative, naturally coming up with better ideas. And that person probably doesn't live inside the office from 9 to 5. They probably live out in nature. They probably live in places that light you up. They probably live in adventure where you're just in an elevated state. That's where you're going to get those fresh ideas from. Now, so that author that I talked about, Dan Sullivan, who co-wrote 10X is easier than 2X, he talks about entrepreneurs. If you're a high performer and you want to be, you need to treat yourself like an athlete or like an artist. And when you study them, athletes and artists aren't performing every single night. If you're an NBA player, you don't have a game every night. If you're, a high performing musician, you're not playing a show every single night most of the time. I mean, there are some crazy people who do, but the majority of them are playing 2, maybe 3 shows a week, for 3 to 4 hours. And the rest of the time they're recovering, they're rebuilding themselves, they're replenishing their energy so they can be at their best when they are showing up. So these vacations are that version for you. If you are a high performer, this space is the way that you actually work on your craft. It's the way that you connect to your vision. It's the way that you come back as a better leader. So in summary, if you want to be able to work less and earn more, to be able to travel more and have amazing experiences and have the business work without you, to have that freedom to run it forever or sell it tomorrow and have the experiences and have a great business, then there's 3 things that you need to understand. You need to understand the 4 levels of taking vacations as an entrepreneur, and you need to make that shift from seeing yourself as the operator of the business to the investor of your time, the allocator of resources. Investors don't sit there trying to do effort all the time. The best investors, they sit back, they wait, they study, they reflect, they stay open, and they make their move when it's the right time. So you need to see yourself as that investor. Step 2 is that you need to see those trips as forcing functions to get feedback, for you to constrain the hours, to see who's going to step up in the team, to see if you can raise the floor on the things that you actually need to be doing, to see what can be delegated faster and who can actually own them, and ultimately allow you to then fix the business so you can test it again next. And step 3 is you need to own that you, as the leader of the business, your highest asset is in your vision, your creativity, and your good decision making. And when you have that and you give yourself the space to make those, you're going to run a better business. So I hope you found this video helpful. And if you're a business owner and you want to take your next big trip, you can either check out some of the videos around this where I'll show different experiences that I've been on, where I've used my credit card points, or some other philosophies that I have around creating a life that's full of freedom. Or if you want help turning your points that you're sitting on into your next big dream trip, you can go ahead and click on the link in the description and learn more about how we can support you in making that process super easy so you can go enjoy these experiences, not worry about the planning, not worry about the cost, go run your business and go enjoy your time off. Life is short, book the trip.